He'd have Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip 39 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. Why 39? Because the Romans, who were pretty good at this stuff, figured out that 40 would kill you. And they didn't quite want to kill him. They just wanted to hurt him really bad. After they beat him, the soldiers put a purple robe on him, symbol of royalty, and they mocked him. They put a crown of thorns on his head, dig into the flesh. They tortured and they tormented him, but that wasn't enough. They also ridiculed and mocked him. Finally, after all that was done, they took him out to the town dump, Golgotha. That's what it was. It was the town dump. And they nailed him to a cross. They crucified him. Now, first they stripped off the robe. You realize crucifixion. A lot of people think when you die from crucifixion, you die from the nails. That's not what it is. It's from suffocation. That didn't happen. See, if they wanted you to die quickly, they would drive a nail through both your hands and hang you, and you would die in hours. But if they wanted you to suffer, they nailed your arms out like this. And they nailed your feet together. And the reason they did that was simple. It's death by suffocation. So if you wanted to breathe, and we all have that instinct to breathe, if you wanted to breathe, you had to push up against that nail in your feet. And you could get air into your lungs. It's the most agonizing, torturous way you could make someone die. And that was the path that God chose for Jesus. Said he was thirsty, so that the scriptures could be fulfilled. So they held up a sponge and put some wine vinegar on it so he could drink. They nailed a symbol, a sign above his head that said, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Said it in 3 different languages. Of course, when the Jews saw it, they wanted him to change the sign to, this man said he was the King of the Jews. But Pilate said, what I have written, I have written. I kind of wonder why. Did he put that up there out of respect for Jesus, or did he put it up there to show him, this is what happens when you mess with Rome? He hung there. He finished up the last few things. He had one disciple, John, care for his mother. She was alone now. She would need help, so he had John care for him. The soldiers gambled for his garments. It was another prophecy fulfilled. Back in Psalm 22, back in the time of David, a couple thousand years before, David talked about how they would gamble for his clothing. All the scriptures, over 300, were all fulfilled in one man. And these were among the last. Finally, when it had all been fulfilled, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "It is finished." Now, folks, I don't quite know how to break it to you, but Jesus didn't speak English. He didn't. I know in every movie you've ever seen, he speaks English, except The Passion of the Christ. He didn't speak English. He spoke the language that they talked about in The Passion of the Christ, Aramaic. What's Aramaic? The best way I can describe it is this. Aramaic is part Hebrew and part Greek. It's sort of a mishmash of two languages. Greek was the language of culture, it was the language of commerce, and Hebrew was their native tongue. And they got mixed together. Anybody here speak Pennsylvania Dutch? Sort of the same thing. English, the language of commerce, German, the language of their people, they mixed them up. That was Aramaic. So Jesus didn't actually say, "It is finished." Now, the word means the same thing. But the word he used was, if I could have the next slide, one more. Tetelestai. One big word. It means it is finished, but it has a secondary meaning. The other meaning is this. When you were in the marketplace, say you went and bought a chariot wheel, and you paid the money. There were no computers, there were no receipts, and so instead, the person who was the shop holder, he would cry out this word, Tetelestai. And the secondary meaning is what actually happened. See, it means paid in full. And friends, that's what Jesus did on that day. He paid a price none of us could pay. He paid a price none of us could cover. He finished it. Now, I know there are a lot of us who could look at the battle that we're living through right now and wonder, is it finished? Here's the truth. Yes. Now, the battle rages on to some degree because that enemy is still on the same mission. He's on that mission to destroy what God loves most, to destroy you and me. But his days are numbered, and his time is short. Because Jesus has already won the battle. It is already paid in full. What started on that tree, ended on that tree. The battle is won. Now we're just picking up the pieces. God, in his mercy, is waiting for the return of Christ. Some people think that's a sign that he's not coming. That's not what it is. God is waiting on who he loves most. God, in his mercy, is waiting to bring about his final destruction. And it's not mercy for him, it's mercy for us. Mercy for those people that we love, who have not yet come to believe in what he did on that day. This week, we're going to talk a lot about forgiveness. We're going to talk about what God has done for us. We're going to talk about what our response should be for it. But it all starts with this. If you've never given your life to Jesus, if you've never put your faith in what he did for us on that cross, I invite you to do that today. He laid down his life because he loves you. Now, in a room this size, I'm guessing most of the people have already made that decision. And that's great, and it's awesome, and I'm glad you're here. But here's what I want you to be thinking about. For the rest of this week, who needs to be here? Who needs to know this truth? Who needs to know the one who set them free? Who's really busy running toward him right now? Get them here. Not just because I'm here, because he's here. Get them here. Let's show the truth. Let me help you to do what's always kind of hard to do with a loved one. You know that, right? I have lots of people I've told about Jesus. I have lots of people who believed it. Do you know who the hardest people to get to believe it are? The people I love the most. Because they know me too well. They see me now, but they remember me then. Maybe it's the same way with you. Bring them to hear the word. Get them here. Pray about it. Ask God to give you an open opportunity. I want to close the way I opened. It all started with a tree. It all started in a garden. It ended in the garden. It ended in the tree. Friend, if you need prayer today, if you want to receive Jesus for the first time, I want to pray with you during our closing song. I do. I'm sure Pastor Roger would like to as well. If you're struggling because you're walking too much with him, I want to pray with you today. As we close out this service, if there's anyone who needs prayer, I want to pray with you. Because the truth of the matter is this guy makes things look really good, but he's defeated. His path goes nowhere. He is over. That's the way to go. So that's where I'm going to stand. If anyone needs prayer, I'd love to pray with you. I hope to see you for the rest of the week.